even in small ways. There's a product that we, for a while, were doing a lot of implementations on the replacement of that product with another platform, simply because that vendor who had cornered that particular market for an ERP system was losing a lot of their staff. So not only were they not putting development and research and development back into the product as well, but their regular support staff who knew the product, who knew the customers or the customer relationships, folks were leaving. A little bit was culturally, a lot of it was actually pay, what they were willing to pay people. So they were losing people. And so it was still a good product, but people were jumping off of it because they weren't getting the regular support, the experts that they had come to rely upon to fix certain issues or develop a certain module, or come in and redo some of the policy settings configuration. All that knowledge started to evaporate and customer service suffered. And we just watched them dwindle down. No fault of the product, the fault of the company and the direction that they wanted to go in or they had to go in. So
Mhm.
just because this product is great today and they're really, eating the lunch of this other product and they're really taking over the market, and I could name some names, but I won't. Uh,
Not naming names, no.
they might not be there in 2 years. It might not be the same level of service. And in some cases, they do drastically change the product and not for the better. It just changes too much. It would be difficult for me to just look at you and go, okay, you're this size market. You need this particular ERP system, because we actually need to dive in, see where the pain points are, the specific things that are unique to you. But every time we do demos, people think that we see the same system over and over again, and we do to an extent. But a lot of times these demos, you get to see where this vendor is today, the software vendor is today, versus where they were a year ago when you last looked at a demo for another client. And sometimes that's a massive difference. Hence the reason why we can't just align ourselves with one particular product in the first place, is that that environment changes too much.
Right, right. And every organization is different and they do business differently, right? They have different needs, they have different integrations. So I always get a little passionate, if you will, about some firms who are, system integrators, but they have another side of the business that gives an agnostic, needs assessment, or does some of the same work that we do in terms of requirements definitions to procure a new ERP system. What are your thoughts on that? Because for me, it's not really an agnostic approach if one side of your business is they benefit from selling a specific big name, right? I don't think that that is an agnostic approach. I think that they, are very persuaded to pull them into that system, right? Whatever system they're selling. So that piece bothers me a little bit. When you say you're truly agnostic, I think you don't need to be selling any other pieces of software.
Yeah, there's a conflict of interest there that's inherent, and I think if we look at it from the lens of the private sector, they're less worried about that.
Mm,
The public sector, because you're dealing in the realm of public trust, which is the reason why procurement processes are the way they are, and the way accountability is done, and the reporting and open meeting laws and open records. When you're in the realm of public trust, that takes on a different flavor. And it's not necessarily that there is a conflict of interest. You have to deal with the perceived conflict of interest when you're working in local government, and that's difficult. Even to the extreme of, you can have a lot of vendors. Let's say you put out a solicitation,
mhm.
and you have someone come in, an implementer or even like an actual software vendor. They're going to come in and they're going to do the discovery, and they're going to put the needs assessment, and then of course they recommend you go with our product. They've got the inside knowledge. They've been there for the beginning. They have the relationship. What you can have, though, is those other folks that were shortlisted for that and didn't get selected, they will file a complaint or a challenge to a procurement and go, hey, this isn't fair. You guys, these folks had the inside track. You didn't honestly look at other products. You just selected this firm, and then you allowed them to keep rolling forward and actually implement their particular piece of software. And now you're paying them a maintenance agreement long term. And it's not even that that challenge would be successful. It's that it would cause that procurement to likely be thrown out and have to start all over again. And
Mhm.
I've seen in local government where you're halfway through a project, someone challenged the procurement, was actually able to point out something that is plausible, And then they had to throw out the entire procurement, stop the project, put out for RFP all over again, and do the whole entire thing, except this time do it in a way that filled that issue that was standing there for the challenge. So it's not even that there is an inappropriate relationship on the recommendation there. It's just the
Mhm.
perception of it is very difficult in local government. It asks a lot of questions, as it should, um, and those are not easily fixed without throwing everything out and starting all over again, which is a terrible waste of money and time.
I agree. Has there ever been a moment or an early clue where you can tell an agency is about to make a tech first decision that might cost them later on?
Yeah, and so there are some instances where it's completely appropriate to do that. And I
Mhm.
usually talk in terms of cybersecurity is the big one. If there's a big gap there, there's something that's really missing. You're in seriously rough shape trying to mitigate an enterprise risk. Yeah, you want to run out and buy a solution just so that you can fill this. You know, you can put in multi-factor authentication or whatever the issue is. Disaster recovery module. That's understandable. You can do that as a short term.
Mhm.
It doesn't really work that well with foundational workflow products as well. You can tell, and we've actually been brought in after the fact when something's already been selected. And in one particular case, we had to get the client out of that contract. So there's a lot of cases where we get in there and it's like, oh, they've already made the decision, they've already selected the product. However, we can already tell it's not configurable to the exact way that they need it to. There might be a better product out there. We might be able to push back on the vendor. A lot of clients do not want to go down the road of canceling that contract and going out and doing the procurement all over again. In some cases, when it is such a critical piece, say it's the financial reporting or it's the portal aspect for your interaction with your public, um, you know this is set up for failure. This will not be successful. And the software vendor is already telling you, yeah, I know you guys want that, but we never promised the client that we were going to be able to deliver that. I mean, major red flags that it's like
Mhm.
you're going to spend the money and burn your political capital to implement a product that you know is not going to work for you in the long run. This is a serious situation we need to look at and decide how we're going to tackle this because you don't want to start a project that's already set up for failure. That just doesn't make sense.
Right. When you think of these agencies who have really transformed and modernized, what did they do differently than those who just went out and bought the thing?
Great question. It starts with having the vision. They know what the actual outcome is. Um, and sometimes clients have that in mind, especially the ones that have done their homework and go, these are our pain points. This is what we are looking to solve. Um, and sometimes that's just as simple as the mayor just would like a reliable financial report to look at once a month,
Right.
like we've heard in some cases. But they know why the project's important and they know what it's looking to solve. And it can be a mix of a little bit of detail, like very specific things, but it has to tie to an overall vision. Is it going to improve service delivery of the organization? Is it going to allow decision makers to make quicker decisions, more accurate decisions? Is there a bottleneck in a workflow because there's so many manual workarounds that it's choking because no product seems to be able to fit that, but we never really took a look to see what's on the market now that could provide that particular workflow. You have to have a vision, and it can't just be modernization for modernization's sake. It can't just be my mayor's really upset that our technology looks old, buy me some new technology.
Mhm.
It doesn't work. It in the best case it leads to a boom bust cycle you've heard me talk about before.
Right.
Spend some real quick one-time dollars, make everything shiny and new, but it's not the exact solution you need, or it creates an incredible overhead or staffing burden.
Right.
Product doesn't get replaced for a period of time, but most people don't use it. You tie it to a vision, you tie it to your overall goals of your organization, and it's a lot easier to align resources to keep the momentum spun up and moving forward and to deal with the change management. That's the real key. And like I said before, modernization means a lot of things to a variety of people.
Yep.
That can be just a very simple goal, and we need to replace our budget book software, all the way to a full suite ERP replacement.
Right. If I'm a CFO or CHRO or even a CIO, how do I manage that political pressure that could be coming from above me? right? How do I manage that? What advice do you have?
So there's a couple of things. I think if you're buying, like, and we'll speak in terms of ERP, if
Hmm.
you're looking to replace your ERP, a lot of your governance for that project needs to be very similar to the way you make decisions already in the organization. Sometimes we come in with um, vendors will come in with a particular solution, but they want to have this kind of governance, and that can work, especially if it's a little bit better than what is currently in the organization. But you can't drastically change the way you make decisions and align people in an organization. One, it makes change management very difficult because change management is just a long multi-year drumbeat over and over again. That's how you extract true change out of folks. Constant vision, constant focus on what the end goal is, as well as at the task level. But you can't move things drastically internally when it comes to political capital. So you have to recognize in the very beginning who are the stakeholders, who are the folks that are going to be champions, who are going to be very anti this particular product. And you have to have that laid out in your mind at least before you start taking on a project like this. That's what determines its success. There are going to be challenges as you go through an ERP implementation. There's even simple things such as leadership changes in the middle of it. You get a new town manager, you get a new mayor, you get a new CIO, you get a new CFO, and you have to deal with that in a unique way as well. But figuring out how that playing field looks for using your political capital as well as your change management, you have to have figured out in the first place before you even take on a particular project like this. You can't figure it out later. It's too difficult. It's too multi-layered, and you will get better long-term success if you take the time early on. And it's actually,
Right.
we asked that question in Charlotte's presentations as well. We phrase it a slightly different way, but one of the big reasons why we ask why this, why now is because we usually start to hear what are the political implementations and implications internally on this project. And that actually gives us a great picture as to, oh, okay, this is really why they're doing it, because they're getting pressure from here, or this expectation changed, or this new person came in as the CFO.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't know why my brain went here, but we've been seeing a lot of RFPs lately because there are systems that are sunsetting, right? Within the next 2 years, some big names that are sunsetting.